Hey everybody, it's JT Stewart again with Selling, Negotiating, and Winning. And today we're going to talk about the give and take of negotiating, because truly that's what negotiating really is. And you're trying to make a win-win situation. Old school people are, it's all about me, it's all about getting the whole thing done for me. That's not really how you strike a deal. You actually want to win-win, okay? So we're going to practice win-win negotiating today, okay? First thing you need to know is you need to know what the other side wants. How in the world can you claim your position if you don't know what the other side really wants? We talked in the last session about clearly defining what you want. What do you have to have out of this negotiation? Whether it's a home or a house you're buying, and maybe you want to flip it, you've got a certain dollar amount you want to buy that property for, because you know you're going to have to put some money into it, and then you're going to flip it, and you're going to want somebody to have enough money to get the house done, but you're going to want to make the money. So know your numbers is one of the first things you want to do. Know what you want and find out what the other side wants. It's really simple. It's a conversation. It's not very hard to find out what the other side wants. Remember, we talked about earlier in one of the earlier sessions, we talked about gaining rapport. We talked about, finding what's going on in their office and building that rapport so you can ask open-ended questions. Everybody understands what an open-ended versus a closed-ended question is? I hope so. Open-ended question is, how long have you been here? They're going to tell you how long they've been there, and they're going to tell you a story. And the closed-ended question is going to be somewhere along the lines of, is $30,000 enough? And they're going to say no, or they're going to say yes. Most likely no if they're a good negotiator. So get your open-ended questions, closed-ended questions together. Ask open-ended questions. Get them to tell you a story. You're not going to find out what they want or what they need in their negotiating if you don't ask the right questions. And if you ask open-ended questions, let them tell you the story. It's conversational, it's fun, you're going to hear their story, you're going to laugh. But the bottom line is you're going to get information that's going to help you with your position and your interest in negotiation. Okay? So number one, ask open-ended questions. Here's what I use in negotiating all the time. I negotiate all kinds of deals. But here's one of the things that I've learned over the years that really helps in negotiation. Are you ready for this tip? Silence. Silence. People are used to talking in turns. They say something and they expect you to respond. Then you respond, and then they respond back to you. And it goes like this. Sometimes it's better just to be silent. I'll give you an example. I produced the Pete Rose Show, and I had a promoter in another city that I don't know what he was doing, but the show was not selling. In Philadelphia, where Pete played, so it made no sense. And 30 days, almost 45 days out, he wanted to back out of the deal. He was having a little trouble selling tickets, so he called me, and I forego the deposit, the second deposit. There's really two deposits, but I let him split it up into thirds. Then he calls me and says, can he wait to make the third deposit? Yeah, okay, let's do that. I can do that. So he gets me off at the second deposit, which was a bad negotiating thing on my behalf. I let him have $9,000 that he didn't have to pay me. Okay, so then he wants to cancel the show altogether. Well, now I just lost the $9,000 deposit because it's non-refundable, and I lost the show money because he wants to cancel, and there's nothing I can do about it because it is what it is. So he calls me and says, well, let's see, we need to get some money back from our deposit. They only paid a third, but they want money back from their initial deposit. I said, well, let me talk to my partners over the weekend. Now, that is the higher authority. When I say, or somebody says, well, let me talk to my boss, let me talk to somebody, that means they have to talk to somebody, or maybe they don't have to talk to somebody. It's called the higher authority. I didn't have to talk to anybody. I signed the checks. So I didn't have to talk to anybody, but I waited about 4 days. We finally reconnected on the phone, and he said to me, so did you talk to everybody? I said, yeah. He said, what do you think you can give back to us? And I said, absolutely nothing. Nothing. I'm not giving you anything back. You kept 2/3 of my deposit, or the fee, so I'm not giving you anything back. And he said, as most people would, you're not going to give me anything back? What did I say? Not a thing. Nothing. I said, I'm not giving anything. And so finally the conversation was so uncomfortable for him. He said, well, I can't hardly believe that. I said, well, it is what it is. I'm not giving you anything back. My guys decided they didn't want to give anything back. Guess what? I didn't give anything back. But I used the silence when he asked the question. It wasn't up for debate. It was a yes or no. What are you going to give back? The answer was not a damn thing. Period. Not giving you anything back. So, understand that silence is golden. That's a good takeaway. When you're negotiating, you don't always have to say something. Sometimes saying nothing at all is really, really loud, okay? So, that's one thing. Flip side of the negotiating is you want to get to their side of the table. You want to make them feel comfortable. Compliment them. Get them involved in how you're responding to them. We've talked about going into their office, and we talked about seeing what is in their office and then complimenting on that and talking about that and finding common ground. Now, sometimes you can compliment them, hey, whatever the situation is, you can compliment them, but you can also get to their side of the table by saying things like, how can I help you? What do you need from me? How can I help make this deal happen? And what you're really going to do is you're going to smoke out anything that they want. You're giving them the opportunity to present to you how you can make that deal happen. So you really want to smoke that out. Tell me what you need. What can I do for you? What really matters to you? Ask some probing questions like, let me see if I understand this correctly. And this is what would happen with the guy in the Pete Rose show. Let me ask if I am, see if I'm hearing you right and see if this is correct. And then you repeat your position. That does two things. One, it solidifies the communication so nobody can come back later and say, well, I didn't say that, which happens a lot. So you solidify the communication, and all of a sudden you're finding out what position they're in. So you can say, well, let me see if I understand this correctly. You want me to pay for the closing costs on this house that you're purchasing from me. Is that correct? And they're going to say, yeah, that's what we're going to. Well, what if we did this? You leave yourself open to, what if we did this? What if we split the closing costs and it was fair 50-50? Notice how I said that. What if we split the closing cost and made it fair? Who doesn't want to be unfair? You're going to push them into a boundary that they don't want to be seen as unfair, so you use the word fair. Is that fair? I use that all the time. Is that fair? Does that sound good? So you got to add those tags onto your lines when you're actually trying to get them to agree. So, is that fair? Absolutely it is. So, this keeps the train on the track, is what it does. It clears up any miscommunication when you go back and say, let me see if I understand this correctly. And then if they say, yeah, that's correct, then you've established that the train is on the track. It keeps the communication going down the rails that you want it to go through, okay? You don't want any miscommunication because that happens a lot. When people miscommunicate, well, I didn't say that. No, that's not what we meant. So you've got to go back and those benchmarks to keep the negotiation on track, okay? Questions are a good way to gather information. How long have you had this home? Okay, well, did you buy it new? And you're just having conversation, but what you're really doing is you're gathering information. They didn't buy the home new. Maybe they had the house for a few years, and you want to buy the house. So the bottom line is you get all the information, and then you know how you can negotiate. You know that they haven't had the house very long, probably don't have a lot of equity in that home, so their margins are going to be thin, okay? Questions also let you dictate the action. Understand this. If you're asking questions, you're on the offense. And they, most likely, are on defense because you're asking the question and they have to answer. So you're dictating the action. You can't find out what they want in a negotiation if you don't ask. Questions are extremely valuable. So we'll cover more of that a little bit down the road. So we'll see you on the next session.